when I step into an old school television studio, it feels like 1975 in some sense. You know, the person I'm talking to isn't really there. They're really a speaking device for the corporation. And they have to be, because the corporation, which is running high expense, low bandwidth television, where every minute or every second is extraordinarily expensive, they can't really take risks. They can't have free-flowing conversations on the off chance that something goes dreadfully wrong, and it might, right? And so everything is scripted, and then you have 30 seconds to make your point, and like there's just some things you can't say in 30 seconds. You have to compress them down to the point where they're actually foolish. It's actually foolish to try to do it, but what else do you have? Whereas with these long-form conversations, man, you can actually have a discussion about something. You can try to get to the bottom of it, and so that's pretty cool. And then it turns out that people will actually follow along. Like, I was actually absolutely stunned by, I had 4 debates with Sam Harris earlier this year, 2 in Vancouver and 1 in Dublin and 1 in London. And each of them lasted about 3 hours, and we were going to do a Q&A for each of them, but as it turned out, while we were talking, we got into the conversation, and then we asked the audience to vote by clapping whether we should continue the conversation or move to the Q&A, and it was an overwhelming majority of people wanted the conversation to continue. And so basically what happened was something approximating a 12 to 15 hour continuous conversation about the relationship between facts and values, or science and religion, and that's a fairly solid philosophical discussion. And that isn't necessarily the case that Sam and I are the 2 people in the world who would be most qualified to undertake such a discussion, but we did our best, and it was a pretty high-level conversation. I mean, for me, it was approximately the level, I think, that would characterize a pretty decent PhD dissertation defense, and that's fairly high-level intellectual conversation, and the audience was just with us the entire time. And so that's cool, man. It could easily be that our relatively primitive initial mass communication technologies like television made us look a lot stupider even to ourselves than we actually were, because everything had to be compressed to a very short period of time. Everything had to be scripted, so it couldn't be spontaneous discussion. You couldn't assume that your audience knew anything, because maybe it was the first time they watched the show. You couldn't assume that they remembered anything, because you didn't know, like if it was a series, whether they had participated in the entire series. You had to aim at the lowest common denominator, and you couldn't assume much of an attention span. But it turns out that people have an incredible attention span. Like I was just rewatching Breaking Bad, and I don't know how many hours Breaking Bad is. It's like, there's 6 seasons, must be 60 hours, I think, something like that. And it's a continuous 60-hour movie. And that's a long movie, and it's really engrossing. And there's all sorts of other shows that are perhaps of equal complexity. And man, people have no problem with them at all, right? They just eat them up. So it turns out maybe we're not so stupid. And so that'd be nice if we weren't so stupid. And I'm kind of tired of everyone assuming that we are, just like I'm tired of everyone assuming that we're some sort of cancer on the planet. I don't like that attitude about human beings. I think there's something deeply, deeply wrong about it.